What happens when a franchise that tasted glory just months ago suddenly throws open the vault and screams, "Everything must go"? The Vancouver Canucks aren't just dipping their toes into trade waters, they've cannonballed into the deep end with cement shoes, and the ripples are being felt across the entire NHL landscape. This isn't your typical deadline posturing or subtle asset management. This is a full-blown fire sale announcement that has general managers from coast to coast licking their chops like wolves circling wounded prey. Let me paint you the picture of what's unfolding in British Columbia right now, because this is the kind of organizational chaos that makes for must-watch hockey drama. The Canucks have essentially hung a "Make USAN offer" sign on nearly their entire roster, and the implications are absolutely staggering. According to Sportsnet's Elliotte Friedman, the oracle of hockey insider information, Vancouver's message to the other 31 teams has been crystal clear and shockingly bold. "We want to know what you think about our players. No limitations. Talk to us. We'll decide what we're willing or able to do." Read that again. No limitations. When was the last time you heard a franchise essentially admit they're willing to discuss anyone not named Quinn Hughes? This isn't strategic ambiguity. This isn't playing hard to get. This is a team waving the white flag on their current construction and admitting that everything, needs to change. The Canucks are drowning in mediocrity with a 10-12-2 record, having lost 6 of their last 7 games. They've gone from Pacific Division contenders who pushed the Edmonton Oilers to the brink in last year's playoffs to a franchise seemingly ready to detonate the entire operation and start from scratch. Let's start with who's definitively OFF the table, because that list is shockingly short. Quinn Hughes remains the franchise cornerstone for now. The reigning Norris Trophy winner and captain is the one player management has explicitly protected. But here's where it gets juicy. Even Hughes' long-term future isn't entirely secure. Friedman addressed speculation that emerged earlier this week about Hughes potentially being available if he doesn't commit long-term. While sources vehemently oppose the idea that Hughes has already decided to leave, the fact that this conversation is even happening tells you everything about Vancouver's current state of chaos. Hughes is under contract through June 2027, but becomes extension eligible in July 2026. If he doesn't sign that summer, the whispers will become roars, and Vancouver might face the nightmare scenario of trading their best player to avoid losing him for nothing. Philip Hronek also appears safe, though his no-trade clause makes that decision partially out of management's hands anyway. Friedman noted that even without the clause, there's no desire to move the Czech defenseman who's become Hughes' ideal partner. And that's it. That's the entire do not touch list. Everyone else? Fair game. Kiefer Sherwood is reportedly the player most likely to move first. The gritty winger has been one of Vancouver's few bright spots this season, and contending teams are always desperate for his brand of sandpaper hockey come playoff time. Friedman specifically identified him as someone who can be quick, meaning a deal could materialize rapidly. Sherwood represents exactly what Vancouver wants in return. He's a pending free agent, so moving him recovers value that would otherwise walk for nothing in July. Expect multiple teams to engage in a bidding war for his services. Connor Garland presents a fascinating case study. The diminutive dynamo has been productive, but his $4.95 million cap hit through 2025 to 26 makes him a more complicated piece to move. Friedman suggested Vancouver might actually prefer keeping Garland, which raises an interesting question. Are they trying to maintain some competitive pieces, or are they just concerned about the return they get for him? Tyler Myers is another name generating interest. The veteran defenseman carries a $6 million cap hit through the season. And while he's been solid, that's a hefty price tag for a rental. Still, teams looking for right-shot defensive depth will absolutely kick the tires. But here's where this gets truly wild. Friedman mentioned that even players with term remaining on their contracts are in play. That potentially includes JT Miller, signed through 2029 to 30 at $8 million per season, Elias Pettersson, signed through 2031 to 32 at $11.6 million per season. Brock Boeser, signed through 2027 to 28 at $6.65 million per season. Now, Vancouver hasn't explicitly said these franchise players are available, but no limitations means exactly that. If another team comes calling with a Godfather offer, management has signaled they'll listen. Here's what makes Vancouver's approach particularly intriguing. They're not looking for draft picks. They want young, NHL-ready talent in return. This tells us everything about their timeline and philosophy. They're not committing to a full teardown and rebuild from the draft floor up. Instead, they're trying to execute a rapid retool, moving out veterans and expensive contracts in exchange for younger players who can contribute immediately while costing less against the cap. It's a high-wire act that rarely works. You're essentially trying to get younger and better simultaneously, which requires finding trade partners willing to part with cost-controlled talent rather than futures. That's a much narrower market. This fire sale announcement raises several critical questions that will define Vancouver's next decade. 1. What happened? This team was in the conference finals just 18 months ago. They added significant pieces. How did it fall apart so spectacularly, so quickly? The answer likely involves chemistry issues, coaching problems, and the reality that last year's success might have been a mirage built on unsustainable shooting percentages and goaltending. 2. Can they actually get value? When you announce you're desperate to move players, you lose negotiating leverage. Every GM in the league knows Vancouver is motivated to deal, which means they'll lowball offers and wait for desperation to set in. 3. Is this Rick Tocchet's last stand? The head coach guided this team to remarkable success last season. If the roster gets gutted around him, is he still the right voice in the room? Or does a full roster overhaul require a coaching change as well? 4. What does this mean for the core? Miller and Pettersson have reportedly had friction. Pettersson's massive contract looks increasingly problematic given his inconsistent play. If Vancouver is truly open to discussing anyone, could they actually move their $11.6 million center? That would be franchise-altering. For the rest of the NHL, Vancouver's desperation is opportunity. Contending teams that need depth pieces now have a motivated seller. Teams looking to take on bad contracts for assets have a willing partner. Teams hoping to pry loose a star player suddenly have an opening that didn't exist a month ago. The trade market typically doesn't heat up until February and March, but Vancouver just threw gasoline on the fire in November. Expect GMs to start circling immediately, testing Vancouver's resolve, and seeing just how no limitations really means no limitations. The Vancouver Canucks have essentially admitted their current construction doesn't work, and they're willing to blow it up to find something that does. Whether this represents bold, decisive leadership or panicked overreaction to a rough stretch remains to be seen. What we know for certain is this: the NHL just got infinitely more interesting. When a team with legitimate star power announces everyone's available, chaos follows. Blockbuster trades, unexpected destinations, franchise-altering decisions made in desperation. The Canucks face the San Jose Sharks on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. A game against the league's worst team that suddenly feels like a referendum on the entire organization's direction. Win, and maybe this fire sale talk cools down. Lose, and the phones in Vancouver's front office will ring off the hook, with vultures ready to pick the carcass clean. One thing's for sure: the next few months in Vancouver will be absolutely unmissable theater. Whether it ends in redemption or ruin, we're all watching now. What do you think the Canucks should do? Blow it up completely, or try to salvage this season? Drop your takes in the comments below, and smash that like button if you want more breaking NHL analysis as this story develops.